Hello, and welcome to the Exponential Growth Podcast, powered by Analyst Investors. I'm your host, David Olivencia, co-founder of Analyst Investors, and a passionate advocate for leveraging innovation and technology to drive success. Let's get started. This is Exponential Growth. All right, everyone. Well, hey, welcome to another episode of the Exponential Growth Podcast. Today, we're so honored to have a dear friend of mine, many years, many years, through connecting at Accenture, our first career jobs at Accenture. And he's had an amazing career across various companies, whether it's consulting companies, brick and mortar companies, and now the Chief Information Officer of HEICO, a $4 billion company on the New York Stock Exchange, ticker symbol HEI, if you're interested. And they do sales, distribution, manufacturing, and repair in this whole very cool aerospace industry and defense, right? And a lot of things going on there in space and aviation, and really cool area. So welcome to the Exponential Growth Podcast, William Velez. How are you, William?
Thank you. Thank you, David. Thanks for having me here. Really
Excellent.
excited to do this with you.
Excellent. Well, hey, it's been a while. We connected a long time ago when we were just young pups starting our careers out at Accenture, and it's just amazed to see your career journey and story. So let's start there, William. Just give us a little bit more, double click on your story. William Velez, and you can go from the beginning, but just give people a little bit of context of William and just how it started, and then a little bit of your growth, and please do.
Sounds good. So yeah, as you mentioned, my undergrad was in electrical engineering, focused on telecommunications. So I went straight from college to work at Accenture. That's when I met you 28 years ago. So
Wow.
that's
Wow.
quite the statistic. And worked at Accenture for about 7 years, focused first software, then more infrastructure, but overall working on a very specific, very technical area of Accenture. When I decided, you know what, I'm very technical, I'm an engineer, I just don't have much business experience. So I decided to pursue my MBA and got accepted to the Wharton Business School and spent 2 wonderful years there, kind of balancing all the technical knowledge that I had with everything else that you can imagine in an MBA. Came out of that to go back again to consulting, but more of a strategic type of consulting until I got tired of traveling. I put in 1.4 million miles in American Airlines. I'm a million miler. So I
Wow.
figured, you know what, let me try to pivot. And after a couple of roles, I basically got my first CIO opportunity about 16 years ago. And since then, now at HEICO, this is my 4th CIO role since then. So pretty much half of my career has been a management consultant, and the other half has been as a CIO. So that's at a high level in terms of the career, and been a CIO in healthcare, financial services, building services, and now manufacturing. So it's been an interesting ride.
Oh, well, excellent. Well, hey, so that's kind of the career side, really cool, William, and admirable, right? The other thing that our listeners, I think this is really an amazing aspect about William. William, you've been able to track your family history, genealogy,
That's
all the
right.
way back. I don't even what, 1500s, six. I don't even know. It's been I know you're going to Spain and doing some things back there. So give a minute or so on just
So
that journey, what you found out, and I don't know what year you went back to, but damn, you told me it's impressive. If you could do that, that'd be great.
Yeah, the one that I've gone the farthest back has been a line that goes back to 1310.
Oh my gosh.
One of my ancestors, I think it's 13 generations back, was the accountant to the King of Spain.
Wow.
But more recently, my family comes from Tenerife in the Canary Islands, and I was able to go back. That's my definition of a fun vacation, being for 8 hours in an archival, going through microfilm, through archives, and I was able to track my direct families. This is my grandma's grandfather, going back all the way to 1610, where they came from the Azores And before that, they obviously came from Portugal and then Spain. So it was a very convoluted story. But long story short, yes, I've been tracking genealogy as a hobby since 1994, and still have ways to go. But yes, a lot of research and treasure hunting and finding family gossips that no one ever knew. So it's very interesting.
Wow. Well, I don't even know. I can only imagine how many people on this earth have been able to track their genealogy and their family history back that far, but truly impressive. And I know there's a lot more details and hard work underneath that, but thanks, William.
Fun
So,
fact.
yeah, no, really fun fact. So now let's jump to so you're at this, one of the, a lot of different companies you mentioned there, but one of them is, brick and mortar company, bit of the financial services interchange area. You come on as CEO, you help get them ready for an IPO. But talk about just let's double click a little bit. How did all the experiences you have lead you to that point? The leadership lessons you have taking a company to IPOs. It has its own set of challenges. How did technology play a role in that? Share your thoughts there, please.
Sure. And I think that's where the CIO role goes to that next level, not only thinking about the technology, but also how is everything I'm doing affecting the valuation of the company that could eventually affect the IPO price. And in that sense, this company it was a brick and mortar company, very, very used to retail locations, over 12,000 retail locations in the US. And adding that additional channel of an online channel was a challenge in many fronts because we underestimated certain areas. The first one was fraud. When you're going to a retail location, very difficult to do fraud online. You can do fraud in many different fronts. So learning all the details about detecting and dealing with fraud online was huge. Took me several years to refine that expertise. Also, understanding customer acquisition cost. Some people call it CAC, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you realize that most online companies that do this type of let's call it fintech, they're not making money because it's costing them anywhere between $70 and $150 to bring one customer. Yet the lifetime value of a customer could be $50. You're losing money. And it was really a play on bringing as many people as possible at first, and then we'll figure out how to make money out of them. And we quickly realized that was not going to work. And but we were able, because of our scale, to pivot and do other things like white label and other business models that allowed us to use that investment in a way that was profitable. But I think those were some interesting steps in the transition that we never thought were going to happen. And how this is used for scaling, right? That white label example is very interesting because we never thought that we're going to build something to give to others, but that's the ability to be able to pivot and being a little bit of entrepreneurial in that regard. So adding that online channel was critical because private equity saw that the growth aspects of the company were more related to the online, that was the future, than brick and mortar. And that was a critical component of our IPO strategy. So
Yeah.
the CIO, in that case, myself being there in the center of that strategy was a great experience for me when it comes to investing, understanding private equity, understanding the markets, and being able to leverage technology to help with that.
No, excellent. And then then executing that successful IPO, you were part of that, got to realize that. How did that feel?
Amazing. It's a
Right, all the
once in a
hard work.
lifetime opportunity. Yes. It was a once in a lifetime opportunity for sure.
No, excellent, excellent. Well, so the podcast is exponential growth, right? So we like to talk about trends, like to talk about how you then invest to take a part of those trends and how do you best lead, right? And I think you've got built different experiences that you've been in areas of exponential growth on the leadership side, right? But let's talk about uh, the disruptive technologies that are out there. All right, so it's interesting. You've top consulting firms you've worked at, global perspective, travel, different industries, and now we're at just this amazing time, right? Where there's still you look out every at least I can say this, right? Every year I look out and I know the technologies that are coming. I'm just saying, man, it's just there's so many amazing things that are happening. But I've been doing this the last, 28 years, right? And so when you look out, what are the things that you see that, hey, these are some big things that our listeners should just keep on their radar, dig in, make sure they understand how it's going to impact their business, their lives, and just get in front of to be better competitive. What do you see, William, that you can share?
So it's funny because most people that you ask this question, you know what's going to be the first answer.
I do.
AI,
I
right?
do.
So I realized, you know what? I think AI has been used so much. I'm going to look for other technologies that I've been tracking for a while that I think will have exponential growth. I think the
Thank you.
first one is robotics. I think that when you think about demographic trends, you have a very close relationship to Spain because of family. And I see the situations in Europe where a lot of these countries, Spain needs to bring 25 million people in the next couple of years to keep up with the demands of an aging population. So inevitably, when you see all these robots dancing, both mostly in social media, I can't help but think, wow, this is going to be revolutionary when we're, both of us, in several years are in need of assistance. Most likely, those are going to be robots helping us. And clearly, AI will have a play there. But I think the robotics technology in general is very close to getting to that tipping point to become exponential in terms of growth. So that's the first one that I thought about that I'm very excited and I'm tracking. The second one, mysterious, but I think it'll be also its time very soon, quantum computing.
Yeah.
I'm starting to hear companies preparing for the time when all of their encryption can be broken, can be basically deciphered using these quantum computer technologies. And it has implications anywhere from the military to banking to government. So I think that's one that we need to track closely because I think it's going to be like AI. This ChatGPT thing caught everyone by surprise, even though those in the know that you've been able to use, for example, TensorFlow as an AI model for predictive analytics since 2014. So there's been people doing this for a long time, but Gen AI kind of was that tipping point that made it exponential. I think that's going to happen with quantum within the next 10 years. So it's something to watch closely. And then finally, biotechnology. Think about all the things that we've done in the past 20 years and the exponential aspects of those things. And now think the next 20 years. So I worked at some point in healthcare, specifically pharmacy transaction processing. And I can see, I can't connect the dots, but I can see it, how eventually we'll have custom medicines for our own genome and our own specific, body characteristics. And I think that's going to happen within the next 20 years. So I think those three areas are going to be very disruptive, very exponential in growth, and I'm really excited about them.
Yeah, no, I want to double click on there and just share some perspectives. Yeah, the robots thing is kind of interesting, right? Because I totally agree, and I've been on this one for a long time, and people laughed at me, 15 years ago, or not, maybe not that, maybe 10 years ago when I said when Boston Dynamics just put out that robot. I'm like going, because if you think about technology, right, whatever they put out 10 years ago, in my mind, I'm like, it's going to get better, cheaper, faster, with more capabilities, right? So fast forward, guess what? A better, cheaper, faster, more capabilities. Now these things can run faster than us. They can jump higher than us. They're doing flips. They can walk up hills. And again, it can only get better. It's like, yeah, by the way, and you can crank these things out. A human, it takes about 9 months to crank out a human, right? Well, you can crank them out in about 9 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Or less, depending, and that's only gonna get better, cheaper, faster. So it is definitely, and then how you use them, right? And you see what Tesla's doing in their in their work floors with their robots and others. So that's an exciting one. Um, Quantum is, I totally agree. And then when you start coupling quantum with AI and other things, like the amount of power and horsepower and problems that it can solve, that we can't even think about, right? Like we can invent problems and solve. I mean, it's hard to comprehend
Yeah,
what the
exactly.
amount of power that, and then what you're gonna, like what it's gonna what industries and things are gonna evolve from that. And then I would say on the biotech thing, totally. I've just been been the one that I think in the last 3 or 4 years has really kind of jumped to the top of my mind is your body's is a set, it's a set of codes, right? And DNA and all this kind of stuff, and the way you can configure, there's CRISPR and all this kind of stuff that's out there. And I agree with you, this whole um, preventative medicine, predictive medicine, right? And you're right on the medicine side, right? I also think it's on the supplement side too, right? And then the extra, it's like, hey, here's the things that you should be taking to, that are medicine. But by the way, here's some, and what's like, I think the breakthroughs in supplements and things like that are just, it's amazing. And call it this longevity, right? It's
Longevity.
like the technical things around that, and it will be a bit of quantum and biotech and all that stuff. Just it's an amazing space. So I thank you for not doing AI, because I think I think we've done 8 episodes. I think 7 of the 8 was AI, and no, and it is big, it's huge, and that's great. Now in investing, right? So you've done some angel investing. Obviously, you've helped take a company to IPO. You've been around private equity. So you have a good broad perspective on investments. Also graduated from Wharton, right? Very, one of the top finance schools in the world. How, with all these exponential trends, what would you say to our listeners? How should they think about investing in any of these trends? What philosophy are you taking? Your thoughts, please.
So when it comes to investing, obviously every shrewd investor should have a diversified portfolio and look at things in different areas. On the angel investing side, which I love, and I love being part of what you do at Angeles Investors, is more than the money. It's a family, right? And that's for the non-originally financials like me, it's great to learn from all the people there. But what I'm looking for is, are you doing things in a way that it's different than what others are doing? And for example, just using the example of AI, I just had a photocopier company pitch me the other day, and we're just making a joke. How long before they mentioned AI? It was 12 minutes into the presentation. They're saying now that the management console is using AI to identify toner and optimize the toner based on photocopier. So when we go to angel investment and looking at potential companies to invest in, are they doing something different? There's an unmet need, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be several companies doing the same thing. Are you doing something different? And if not, probably you're not going to have the exponential growth that you're looking for when you're an angel investor. So that's one of the areas that I like to think about. And in terms of, I'm a very traditional investor for the long term. I'm kind of like S&P 500 index fund. It outperforms 89% of mutual funds in the world. So when it comes to long term, that's what I usually do. And then in the middle, there's all sorts of investments, from real estate to more specialized investment vehicles that your financial advisors are the only ones that can sell them to you as a accredited investor, right? So I think the challenge is that a lot of people don't have access to some of these because they're not accredited investors. And I know there's been movements in government to lower the barrier of entry. There's pros and cons to that.
I testified on Capitol Hill, and you're right. There are pros and cons to that as well. So yeah,
correct. But in general, I think that going back to angel investing, which is the part of investments that I love the most, I'm looking for that differentiation. And if it's not being done differently, like Boston, what's the name of Boston Robotics?
Boston Dynamics, I think, is what it was
Dynamics,
called.
right?
Like Google bought it, and then they sold it, and I don't know if they're private now or who owns them, but yeah.
They're doing things differently, and that's what I think it's in the end what's going to matter.
Got it. Well, no, that's good. And it's a good perspective, right? Because I mean, I think the way you look at it, right? Hey, I've got some traditional things in S&P 500. It's bit of a, there's some diversity in there and it's growth and you got real estate, very stable. So you got kind of this, you diversify a bit within the asset classes you can, and then you're also diversified across different asset classes, right? You got startup, stocks, real estate, some call it non-traditional that your financial advisors is giving you. By the way, how do you like financial advisors? What would you tell the people? What's your thoughts on financial advisors?
I have an MBA from Wharton. I know a lot about finance, and I still have a financial advisor. Some people would say, "Oh, I know what I need to do. I just put everything in an S&P 500." And I disagree with that. I think the financial advisors do bring value, but they just have to understand what you want and try to find someone who's really looking for your best interest and not necessarily to sell something to make a commission. The better financial advisors that I've had, they're very transparent about what they make. And they'll even tell you, this is what I'm going to make on this investment, right? So it's more about exposing you to certain things that you might not know about or might not have access to because it's kind of close to only those customers. But also information. They invite you to
Mhm.
certain sessions and they expose you to certain information that will help you understand trends. Probably nothing that's earth shattering, but still beneficial in the long run. So yeah, I do believe in financial advisors and they've been good to me.
Good, good. Well, that's good. I think it's a good perspective and for our listeners, right, to take as they look at financial advisors and or have one and ways to think about it. So on the future, right? So we look at, we talk a little bit about trends, talk about how we think about investing, but like when you look at future, what's next for William? What excites William? What excites you about the future? What do you see?
Well, let's start with what excites me about the future. I think longevity is one of those areas, and no coincidence that I mentioned robotics and biotechnology. They're both related to longevity. I
Yeah.
think that it's an area that I'm exploring, not only for personal reasons, but also for from an investment perspective. I think that there's a lot of things that are more aspirational, and there are others that are more scientific, and I've seen both. I think you need both. I think sometimes the aspirational motivates you to pursue the science direction. But we definitely know more now than we did even 20 years ago about what are the things that you need to do to expand your health span, as they call it. So
Yeah.
I've been reading a lot of books about this and trying to slowly but surely implement some of those things in my life. So I think that what excites me about the future, I think that when you think about longevity, you think about robotics, you think about AI, and other technologies beyond the consequences of COVID and hybrid and remote work, I am looking for a different work-life paradigm in the future. I think 10, 15, 20 years from now, it's going to be very different. The typical 8 to 5, going to work, commute, um, it's going to change. When we introduce um, other technologies, probably having a Vision Pro in your head for 6 hours is not going to cut it. But augmented reality and even 3D, three-dimensional technologies for conferencing will make it so that you feel like you're there with the person. I believe that it's going to change, and we'll be able to embed more of that quality of life and still have a fulfilling professional career. And that's the future that I envision, that excites me. I don't know, 30, 40 years ago they thought that cars would fly, and I don't see any flying cars anytime soon. So maybe some of these things are still going to be aspirational 20 years from now, but that's something I'm excited about, and we'll see. Maybe it'll take a few more years, but I see it coming. So
Yeah, yeah. No, and then you talk about books. One of the books I read and it's is it Life Force, I think, or Life. It's Tony Robbins' book. He did a good book on longevity, right? And I think he said, he looked at what are the I don't think it's like 7, 8 factors that cause death, right? Everything from heart disease to dementia to inflammation. He just kind of listed all the different things that are out there. And then he said, well, what are all the big breakthroughs that are happening in all these different areas, right? That are really changing the game. And man, it was insightful. And I read it and I said, there's some big things coming in this space because if you understand what are the 12 major, whatever, 10, 12, 8 major things that cause us to get older and eventually die. And then you can figure out, and then on the other side, oh, hey, well, here, what are the top solutions that are, and then you're just seeing that like they're for each of those areas, they're testing and doing different things that are like working. And there's like not only one, but there's like 3 or 4 or 5 different things that are happening that they're aware of now. The book was maybe 3 years ago, right? Oh, 4 years, I don't know, 3, 4 years ago ish. And like you can only imagine what's coming. And then you throw these techs at you throw quantum at it, you throw all this biotech at it, and it's really fascinating. I know that, I mean, there's other books and other things out there as well.
And yeah, I wanted to mention, I was just quickly Googling it. Peter
Yeah,
Attias, he released this book, Outlive.
outlive.
It's
Okay.
amazing, because a very pragmatic approach to the longevity question mark. And then when you think about all these books and all this information together, it's just there's a Netflix series called
Yeah.
Living to 100 about the
Oh,
blue zones.
yeah. Blue
And
Zones, I'm familiar with. There's another one too that just came out.
okay,
It's the guy who, yeah, there's a guy who did it's called I think it's called Don't Die, or he has a Don't Die conference, and it catalogs this guy's life. He's basic, I think, yeah, he was a startup founder, and now he's really at I would say the cutting edge of uh, uh, um, trying to live long, right? Trying to outlive him.
yep,
So he has a daily hardcore regimen of like sleep, exercise, like supplement. I mean, it's just like and he's at it. So yeah, that there's and that's just coming out now. So amazing, amazing.
it is.
Well, William, cool. Well, hey, thanks for sharing the perspectives. How do the listeners out there connect with you on social media? Because I know you're putting out good content and perspectives out there as well. How do they stay connected to
So
you?
my approach is mostly LinkedIn. I post a weekly article where I try to bring some thought leadership around IT, boards of directors, governance, and obviously the normal day-to-day AI, cyber. But I always try to post something to make people think and bring something new, mostly based on articles from different sources. But that's my best way to reach out to me is through LinkedIn. And yeah, but at least for now.
Excellent. Well, William, thanks again for making it a priority. It's an honor to have you on the Exponential Growth Podcast. Tons of continued success to you, and look forward to seeing you soon. Hopefully here in Bloomington, Indiana, where I think your son will likely be attending. So, my
Yes.
daughter's out there as well. All right.
Very happy. Very happy.
Excellent. Thanks,
All right.
William.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.